Okay, back here again in the battery box on the motorhome. And if you can see that purple wire right there, that's the one that I have to put power to in order to remotely turn on the inverter. So what I have done, and I did not take the camera with me to show you crawling under the motorhome, is I've got this outdoor heavy-duty Cat 5 cable that has 4 twisted pairs in it. So I'm going to run one of these to that wire, and then I'm going to put that up in the panel up front. So let me show you where we've got that. There you can see the wire that runs down underneath the coach all the way to the front and up through the firewall here. So that was fun crawling under there, getting all the dirt and sand and grit in my eyes as I'm pulling it through. And let's see if you can see it. There we go. You can see it coming from underneath, and it goes into the firewall right there. All right, so let me go around inside and I'll show you what we're doing. Okay, here is that Cat 5 cable that I showed you. I've already pull the insulation back on it, expose the 4 sets of wires, and I'm going to hook a wire into the fuse panel and to this switch, and that will give me power back to the inverter to power it up. So once again, the cover is off of the big black hole here, and I'm getting more and more things hooked up to this panel. So it looks like I'm glad that I got one that had 12 of them. All right, let me get this wired up and we'll see how it works. Back in a bit. Okay, I've got the switch wired up. I've got the wire coming from the inverter over here, and then I've got the hot wires coming off of the bus panel. Okay, so the way this thing works is the wire coming from the bus panel goes into the top of the switch here. You can notice there's 4 wires here rather than just your normal, what you would think of as 2, just completing the circuit. And the reason is that this thing has a light in it, and I'll show you that in just a second. So we want the light to come on. I'll move this back up when the power is on and the inverter is working. So that'll be an indication that it's there. But if we put separate power to it, the light will always be on. So what I've done here is the power comes in from the box over here, and that's the hot wire coming in, and then back out to the other side of the switch. So when I turn the switch on, well, that sends power down the line to the inverter over here. So that sends it down to the inverter. Also, I put another wire on that hot one going over here to the top of the light. And then the ground comes off of that and back over to the panel. So whenever I turn on the switch, power goes in through the switch all the way out to the inverter, turns it on, and then it also goes into the light and turns it on. So if I did everything correctly, whenever I push the button, there we go, the light came on. So that lets me know that it's working, and I can look at the meter here, and it shows that all of a sudden my power going from my panels into the batteries jumped up to about 7.5 amps or 7.2 amps from the idle that it was at about 0.5 amp. And the reason is the inverter is now on, it's drawing power, so the solar charge controller kicked in and says, okay, we need to send a little more power over there. So it will do that, and it'll settle back down to about 6 amps or something like that. So this inverter does take a good bit of power just to run idle without much going on with it. All right, let me turn this back off and we'll continue on. Like I said, the next project will be for this bottom meter, and that is to get how much power is going out of the batteries. So right now, all it's showing is just the power that is in the batteries and how much is there. So 13.85, and that'll come back down a little bit now that I've turned off the inverter. and the bottom, which is the amount that I am using, all 0. So we need to fix that. So we're going to go back to the battery box and use some more of those wires from that Cat 5 cable. Back in a bit. Okay, I know this is not the back of the motor home in the battery box, but here's what I decided to do. I went ahead and finished putting in, I had this cable, remember, that came, well, let me see if I can show it to you. It's behind this. So I've got it running up the wall and got it fastened to the wall with these ties that just stick on, and then you put a zip tie through it. So I've got those coming up here, and this will complete running my power all the way over here to where I will have radios and other ham radio equipment for being able to power all of that up. So got that in, and I know that I had said I was going to put it down here, but because this chair is going to be so close to that, if it's turned around, I thought, well, that would be an inconvenience, and so I opted for, I guess, function over form, or the way it's going to look. So I put it up there. Doesn't look too bad, but I think it will be fully functional there and give me all the power I need. I had the 8-gauge wire going over here, then I used some, I think it's 10 gauge, because that's as large as the Anderson power poles would accept, and so I shortened it down to that with just about a 6 or 8 inch piece of it. That should not make any difference powering up everything over here. So that's it. Not sure I'm going to get back to the battery box and put the other thing in. We'll see. In the meantime, I've got the panel finished up, and it seems to be working. Everything does, and I'll work on that bottom meter a little bit later on. So that's it. Talk to you later. Hope you enjoyed this, and if you do, please subscribe, and thumbs up would be appreciated. Talk to you later.